Interview, and I implore any of you to watch the video and then tell me what you think about the current property appraiser. Basically, I wish we had a poll. I wish we had some kind of grading system like they do nationally. I don't think he did too well. Basically, the thing is that's happening now, I know we're in Lehigh Acres, and I'm from Cape Coral, and I'm sure the same thing's happening in Lehigh, but I've only had so much time to do so much research. The thing is, I want you all to take a look at some of the stuff that I have, and you'll see some of the things that are going on in Lee County that the current property appraiser, I'm still waiting for an answer. He told on Tuesday, I was very aggravated at the meeting because I said, Ken, I brought everything with me. Would you please answer it? It's right here, right off your website. And that's really the best thing, is all this stuff that I have, I didn't pull it out of thin air. I took it right from Ken's website. So all of us can look at it, and let's take a look here. We've got two buildings here in the Cape Industrial Park. This is one of the reasons I'm running for property appraiser. This was going on last year too, probably for many years. You've got this first building. It's 30,000 square feet, subdivided, rentable building. The guy rents it out, gets a pretty good penny for each unit. This guy's paying a total of $18 a square foot. I personally have a building. I pay $30 a square foot, and it's about half as nice as this, but we won't go there right now. This building right here, it's half the size of the other one. Look at his tax bill this year. He's getting charged $716,000 worth of taxes. Now, you take a look at those two numbers, I'd say we got a problem. Take a look at this. We got two lots, Cape Industrial Park, right next to each other. And you know, the thing is, I don't like bringing this stuff up. In fact, a couple of the county commissioners, I don't know, they're here, but the thing is, I can talk to them all day long. They're powerless to do anything because Ken Wilkinson only answers to the Florida Department of Revenue, but that's a whole nother problem. But take a look at these two lots right next to each other, and I can show you other examples. I can't bring everything out here, but you got one for 78, one for 41 right next to each other. Nice. $49 a square foot for the building, okay? An increase in 2008. Thanks, Ken. Another increase, another building in the same industrial park, right down the road from this other stuff I'm going to show you. Take a look at this one, $2 a square foot. In Lee County, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Ken Wilkinson again, $5 a square foot. I mean, any of us would like to pay that on our homes, for God's sake. Another one. The real answer to this problem is to put on the website what I call Nosy Neighbor. It's a neighborhood plan. It's a plan so that every neighborhood can be looked at by all neighbors so we all know what's going on. It's just not possible the way the system's set up. He talks about his website being great. I don't think it's that great personally. Room for improvement, lots of improvement. This way with the neighborhood plan, you will have a neighborhood number, be it 77, 100, 120. But that way you could easily look at your whole neighborhood that you're being compared to. And right now, that's how some of this stuff is slipping between the cracks. Is the guy, you know, basically, I'm in the same boat. I trusted the property appraiser for many years. But at some point, when you start looking at this stuff, it'll actually make you sick. There we got another problem in Lee County. It's called the ag exemption, ag classification problem. Ken Wilkinson's biggest campaign contributor to date is the Freeman family. They own over $103 million worth of property. $103 million. They're paying taxes on $300,000. And this is what most of the property looks like. Take a look at this cow. It's basically almost starving to death. That belongs to Jeffrey B. Freeman. I wish he was here today. This is what you call grazing land according to Ken Wilkinson. Well, I can show you lots of examples like that. More of Jeff Freeman's grazing land, supposedly. It's a gross travesty of justice. This one right here, MLK and 75, belongs to Mr. Tom Woodyard. A couple of months ago, he had Ken Wilkinson signs plastered all over this thing. Well, I say you can take Ken's sign down, but it's still a swamp, and you are not entitled to take a $50,000 tax deduction. That's why they don't want me for property appraiser, I can tell you. Right now, there's the same thing. Tom Woodyard, right here. Ag classification, I dare any of you to go drive out there. It's not grazing land, it's swamp. My name is Larry St. Amand. I'm running for Lee County Property Appraiser because I know where the problems are and I know how to fix them. Thank you for listening, and yes, we need a new property appraiser. Thank you very much.
And next up, representing Ken Wilkinson, Mr. Art Hamill.
Well, what am I going to say to that?
Yeah, man, don't go, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, folks. There's a couple things that you need to know, and I couldn't possibly address all of Larry's concerns about individual parcels. I will tell you that you need to know this. Any parcel, it's one of the most, the Property Appraiser's Office is one of the most democratic forms of public servant, because anybody's assessment is public. You can review your neighborhood. You can use the LEPA.org property appraisal website to see it. You can research it just as Larry did, and you can find out and ask questions of your property appraiser just like Larry has done so, and you can check your neighborhood out. So I would suggest to you that that's available to you if you believe that there's a misassessment. In addition, if your property is overassessed, you have an ability to go to the property appraiser's office and make a complaint through an independent judicial board that'll take a look at your gripe. And people have won and people have lost. But the association, what you need to understand is property appraising is not as simply as of how many square foot something is and how many dollars it is. Every neighborhood is different. Real estate's a dynamic cause, and I'm not here to justify all of these particular issues that Larry has provided, but you need to understand that it's done on a professional basis, and his review is done by the Department of Revenue. You need to know that Ken, every year, has to justify his property appraisal assessment to the Department of Revenue, and he's fought with them. I personally have knowledge he's fought with them many a times. Let me give you a perfect example. In this real estate market we've got, have you heard of short sales? Anybody heard of short sales? That's when a guy's going out of his mortgage. I mean, he's failing. He's going to get foreclosed on, and he's trying to sell it and get the last gasp he can get out of his property. Department of Revenue said, that's not a fair sale. A guy does a short sale. That doesn't count. We don't want to use those. Ken is fighting right now with the Department of Revenue to use those short sales to lower your assessments, and the Department of Revenue doesn't want him to do it. Ken has pull, and I'm going to explain that in a moment. I want to congratulate all our dedicated public servants today. I want to tell you, all our county commissioners, down to the water management district people, the mosquito control people, all of them are public servants that are got their heart in the right place and are working for you. Ken is the same way. He's been a dedicated public servant, and I need to tell you a little bit about him. Ken is a Vietnam vet, served a year in tour in Vietnam. He had a top security clearance in the military. After military service, he served as a senior vice president in a bank in Lehigh Acres. This is where he started in Lee County. He then went from there to become a certified appraiser in private practice, and when the position opened up in 1980, he ran for it and has been our property appraiser since then. In that time, in that 28 years, Ken's been a dedicated worker and fighter for Lee County residents. Let me just tell you a little bit about Save Our Homes. We've all heard about it, but I think we forget what it took to get that done. Ken came up with the idea for Save Our Homes. Save Our Homes came about because Ken remember the last time we had rising property values? Ken got telephone calls from people on Sanibel that said, I'm a widow. I can't afford my house anymore. I have to sell it because I can't afford your taxes. So Ken came up with the idea for Save Our Homes. He then, on his private time, with private money that he begged and borrowed from his friends, he started on a campaign that took him years and years to try and carry through with. He was knocked down in the courts by people in the legislature. He was thrown out. He came back with another amendment. He passed the amendment. They fought it again. The recapture rule that Mr. Caldwell spoke about is something that Ken fought about after Save Our Homes came through, and he lost. But he's working right now to try and resolve the capture rate with the state legislature also. After Save Our Homes, Ken came up with an idea that people said, look, I've got all this value in my house, but I can't move because no one wants to pay my high taxes. He came up with the idea of portability. He single-handedly pushed it, and with his friends, got it pushed through the legislature, and now you can carry your Save Our Homes value with you to other houses. You'll remember Y2K. Y'all remember the year 2000? If county commissioners are here, they'll tell you they were faced with a bill of $10 to $12 million to try and go through all the software that the county had. Ken, with his staff, went in and said, we'll solve it. They saved the county $10 million, and he didn't have to. It wasn't his job. This man is good for Lee County, and he's been fighting for you ever since he's been in the office. Ken is an award-winning property appraiser, and I want you to hear 3 facts. Ken has the lowest cost per parcel of all metropolitan area counties in Florida and North America. The second number of parcels handled per employee, and the lowest percentage of protest petitions filed in Florida. Vote Ken Wilkinson. Get this, and you'll learn of the history of Ken Wilkinson. He's got a lot of information here for you. Thank you very much. Vote Ken.
Thank you, Art. And next up is the office of Lee County Sheriff. First up is Mr. Christian Meister.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Christian Meister. I'm 40 years old and I have a background from Austria. Please visit my table inside. I have some information about my qualifications and experience for the position of sheriff. My opponent is Mr. Mike Scott, so please vote for me November 4th, 2008. We need a change. Why should you vote for me? I believe it is important that we can trust a sheriff. I believe that our taxpayers deserve a public service. When a resident gets pulled over by a police officer, we want to trust that the police officer is doing a good job. We want honesty, integrity, fairness, and commitment to public service. When we have an administration that is an embarrassment to the county and the entire nation, we should ask one question. Do we want this leadership that is going to embarrass us? Do we trust our leadership, and is it capable of setting policies that can provide us with a professional police force that can respect the people's rights and dignity? Or do we have a top-down administration that gives us leadership, law enforcement officers, and a service to the taxpayers that is an embarrassment to Lee County? I have to say this. As the senior law enforcement official of Lee County, I will not embarrass us before the entire nation. I will set the standard, and the officer attitudes will follow. I want to add, ladies and gentlemen, the sheriff is not required to wear the uniform. The only qualifications to run for sheriff and to be a sheriff is a citizen and a person who does not have a criminal conviction. A sheriff does not have to have a Florida certification, which I have. But the sheriff is not required to stand here before you today with the uniform. What we need to do in Lee County is a few things, a few changes. One is we don't want to concentrate 2 or 3 officers in one location to see how many traffic tickets we can write. Okay? We need protection in all areas of Lee County, including Lehigh Acres. Okay? And this will also increase the emergency response time when we disperse these officers, rather than concentrating them. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, it is not enough to shut down marijuana grow houses. We need to do that, yes. But if we really want to lower the crime rate, we need to do more. Rather than spending $30,000 a year per inmate in prison for the prisoners, I want to spend that money on our children. We need to give our children the life skills they need so they can stay out of jail. I'm Christian Meister, and I approve this message. Thank you.
And next up for the office of Lee County Sheriff is Mike Scott.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for attending this political rally, and thank you for hosting this political rally. And let me assure you, as I stand before you proudly in this uniform, Florida and federal law fully provides for and affords the opportunity to participate in uniform. There's a few things that are open for debate. Certainly that was handled earlier this week, and that'll be discussed further perhaps at a different time. But there are a few things this afternoon that are not open for debate. You only have one candidate for Lee County Sheriff that has never been arrested. You heard that, right? Only one. I'll let you decide which one it is. You only have one candidate for Lee County Sheriff who has ever been a law enforcement officer. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a third-generation native of this community. I have patrolled every inch of this county on every shift. I've been the first officer to arrive from everything from a barking dog and a loud music complaint all the way up to a double homicide, murders, and everything in between. I have 21 years of unblemished, impeccable, dedicated service. And I'm asking Lehigh Acres today, don't take your eye off the ball. You know who's been fighting crime for the last 4 years with no nonsense. We're not going to stand from a soapbox and dismiss the efforts that we have made in this community on marijuana grow houses. I can't believe I heard that. I know that the people of Lehigh Acres know that marijuana grow house operations need to get shut down. That's exactly what we've been doing for 4 years. So I'm going to ask you this simple question. Based on 21 years of impeccable, flawless service in this community, as you consider who to vote for on November 4th, you look at me, you look at my opponent. Please dig deep, look at the record, and ask yourself, who do you want to answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning? Thank you.
We want Mike!
Thank you, Mike. Next up for elected office for the U.S. House, District 14. First up is Jeff George.
Heightened podium here. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff George, and I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives, District 14. I have lived here in Southwest Florida since I was 4 years old, back in 1973 when my family first moved here. With the exception of 5 years that I spent in the U.S. Army, I've pretty much lived and worked here all of my life. Currently, in addition to owning my own video production company, I also work here in Lehigh Acres at Lehigh Pulmonary Associates, working with sleep apnea patients. Now, all of this experience in the community points to one thing that I recognize. Right now, Southwest Florida is not being adequately represented in Washington. And I think we can say the same for most of America. We have a Congress that is hopelessly divided along party lines. We have a Congress that has brought us nothing but the threat of war without end, failed environmental and energy policies. They have brought us a disastrous mismanagement of the economy, which is based on nothing more than casino-style greed and debt upon debt upon debt. This has to change. Now, the only way that we can make this change is we have to do something different with our vote. We have to do something different with the way that business is done in Washington. We can't afford to let lobbyists and special interests rule our election system. We've got to get out there ourselves, as citizens, as we the people, and take back our rightful place in the national government. We've got to reassert ourselves in this country, because the genius of the Constitution is that it was written to prevent a hereditary political class from ever ruling over the American people. Now, every politician comes up here and they say, hey, I'm going to change things, I'm going to go up there, I'm going to fight corruption. We know what generally happens. The question you have to ask yourself is, how do we verify that this person is really going to go up there and change things? How do we know that he's going to make a difference? And this is what I'm offering you that's unique among all the candidates that are running in this race. Everything that I say and do on the campaign trail, every meeting that I go to, every event that we go to is recorded with that camera over there. And that footage and all of its unedited glory from start to finish is made available for you, the people, to make sure that you have full transparency over your congressman, to make sure that you are engaged in the process. And not only are we using the internet and the new media for showing off videotape, we're using it to get you involved in the process every day. But this only works if you participate. This only works if you step up and do your part. And I know it's easy for politicians to come up here and to blame everybody else, but really, when it gets right down to it, this country is about we the people. The government is not a them, the government is an us, and we need to take responsibility for that. Now, if you elect me, Jeff George, for Congress, not only will I be your voice in Washington, D.C., but I'll be your eyes and ears as well. Thank you.
And next up, he's here, is Representative Connie Mack. Is Mr. Mack here? And we'll move right along. Next up is Bert Saunders.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be here this afternoon with you. I want to thank all of you for taking time out from your busy schedules to listen to the candidates. This election in November is very, very important, as you all know. Our country is experiencing some of the most difficult times in our recent history. Certainly from an economic standpoint, we're experiencing some of the most difficult times since the Great Depression. It's not as bad as the Depression, but it's the worst that we've seen in decades. My name is Bert Saunders. You can find out about my campaign at bertsaunders.com. I have position papers there and a lot of information that will explain where I am. Now, Jeff George has an interesting situation. He's got the camera going here, and you can take a look at those videos and see what the candidates are saying. I've been your state senator for 10 years. I've been a public official, elected official, for 22 years. So you can go on the state webpage. You don't have to sit and listen to what I'm saying. You can go take a look at what I've done for the last 22 years in Southwest Florida, and especially the last 10 years in the Florida Senate. I have had the high honor of working on some difficult issues, making sure that we have quality, affordable health care, making sure that we protect and clean up our environment. Those are very important issues. But now I seek to represent you in the United States House of Representatives. I made the decision to run when it became evident that the incumbent just simply doesn't get it. The incumbent refuses to come here and mingle among the people. He wants to represent you, but he won't come here and talk to you. The incumbent is here in town. He's here this week, but he's still not going to be here to talk to the real people that he seeks to represent. Well, I promise you this. If I'm elected, I will be here. I will be here to listen to you, just as I have been for the last 10 years in the Florida Senate. There are issues that are facing this country that are critically important. We're sick and tired of the partisan bickering that has crippled Congress. Congress has an approval rating of 9%. That's their relatives and their employees. That's all that approves of the Congress right now. It's because of the partisan bickering and the fact that nothing gets done. I commit to work with independents, Republicans, and Democrats to solve serious problems like fixing the economy, like providing energy independence, getting us away from expensive and unreliable foreign oil. We're spending over $700 billion a year on foreign oil, the greatest transfer of wealth from any nation to the rest of the world in the history of mankind. We can't afford that. I had the honor of doing the energy bill for the Florida Senate this year. We have a great policy here in Florida for energy. We're going to make our buildings more energy independent. We're going to have more wind, more solar, more nuclear, more biomass. We're going to make our vehicles more energy independent. We do not have an energy policy in Congress for our country. Congress knows who's taking steroids in National Baseball League, but they don't have an energy policy. It's almost comical that the focus is on the irrelevant as opposed to the true issues. Other issues like immigration reform. We have to stop the flow of illegal immigrants into this country. Now, some folks may say, well, that's racist or that's inappropriate. It's not. It's simply a fact of life that we have to control who comes to this country. We have to know who they are, what they're doing, and we have to make sure they leave when they're supposed to leave. We have people coming to this country on visas. And it's interesting to know that we don't keep track of when they leave. So if you don't keep track of when they leave, how do you know if they're still here? 9 out of those terrorists that attacked the World Trade Center, 9 of them came here legally with visas and overstayed their visas. They should have been rounded up and they should have been shipped back to where they came from. Other issues like health care. Most Americans are one illness away from bankruptcy. The largest number of bankruptcies in this country now is from people that are 65 to 90 years old. People are filing bankruptcy because they get an illness, Medicare doesn't cover it, their supplemental policy doesn't cover it, and they're in bankruptcy. So my message to you is that I want to represent you in the United States Congress. I want to end the partisan bickering. I want to work to solve these problems. Now I will tell you, my friend Robert Neild is here. He's a Democrat. And I have some Democratic friends here. But a vote for the Democrat in this race is a vote for Connie Mack. If you want to change leadership in Washington, D.C., vote for Bert Saunders on November 4th. And I need your support, and I need you to talk to your friends and your neighbors and your email list. Get the word out, and I'll be proud to represent you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Mr. Saunders, I have to have a word with you, man. You know.
And next up is Mr. Robert Neild.
I'm telling you, when I watch McCain, I fall asleep. Today I watch you and I didn't close not even one eye. I'm telling you. This man is awesome.
My name's Robert Neild, and if you vote for me, it's a vote for Connie Mack. So, please don't believe that. Please don't believe that. We can win this year. The Democrats can win this year because people are tired of the economic downturn that's taken away so many jobs, that's collapsed the housing market and the economy in Southwest Florida. Please don't believe that if you vote for Robert Neild, it's a vote for Connie Mack. I promise you, if you'll vote for me, when I get to Washington, I will consistently vote to increase revenues and decrease expenditures. By increasing revenues and decreasing expenditures, we will reduce the deficit. The deficit is now over $10 trillion. Your share is about $35,000 apiece. Everybody in this area, all your children, $35,000 apiece. That is what is sucking all the resources out of our economy, is this deficit. If there were $10 trillion plus available in this economy to provide jobs and retraining for educational opportunities and health care, we would have a more educated, highly educated, healthy citizenry who can compete in the world market. But as it is, since our government has decided it would borrow all the resources out of the economy, we can't use those resources to improve the lives of our citizens. We have to take Congress back from those who would steal not only from us. It was not enough to loot the United States Treasury. What they've done is they've now reached their hands into the pockets of our children and our grandchildren to satisfy their greed and lust for money. They've done it through deregulation of the banks. The banks were unregulated for an extended period of time, and that's what's caused this current economic crisis. We must re-regulate the banks because the American people deserve and demand a stable banking system. Without a stable banking system, we are all at peril of falling off the precipice into a deep, deep depression. We must have a stable banking system. Friends, my name is Robert Neild, and I'm a Democrat, and I'm not embarrassed to tell you about that. When I ran for this office the first time in 2004, I was cautioning everyone about the size of the deficit then. The deficit is larger now than it was then. It fell on deaf ears, and to my good fortune, Congressman Mack kept me from being a part of this United States House of Representatives that has a 9% approval rating. I didn't have to go up there and be embarrassed with a 9% approval rating because he beat me in the 2006 election. But please, I promise you, if you'll elect me your congressman, I will take these ideas of simple economics. You have to balance your budget at home. You have to not spend more money than you earn. I will take this idea to the United States House of Representatives and require that they behave like you are forced to behave every day. Please vote for me on November 4th. My name is Robert Neild. Now, I know there are some of you that just can't vote for a Democrat. Your finger will not touch that Democratic button. So if you're that way, please do me one kind favor if you just can't vote for a Democrat. If you can't vote for a Democrat, then ladies, please vote for Congressman Mack. Gentlemen, vote for Senator Saunders. My name is Robert Neal. I'm running for United States House of Representatives. Thank you for having me out here today.